Ishani Majumdar and Datta. They are going to talk a little bit on Chameli ji, her work, and welcome all of you to the gallery. Ella.
Good afternoon. Chameli Ramachandran, can you hear me?
Yes.
Chameli Ramachandran occupies a distinctive place in the Indian art scene. Her work expresses a blend of Chinese aesthetics and Indian sensibilities. Born in Shantiniketan to Dr. Tan and his wife, Dr. Tan was the head of China Bhavan of Vishwabharati. Chameli spent most of her growing years in the university town. There was a small break when she went to China with her family, but then came back again in the late 40s, right? Yes. She came under the influence, the overarching influence of Rabindranath's worldview, growing up in Shantiniketan as she did. She did her master's in ancient Indian history at Vishwabharati, and she studied art at Kala Bhavan. However, after graduating and marriage to fellow artist A. Ramachandran, she shifted to Delhi, and for a couple of decades she didn't practice art seriously. She worked at paintings and so on, but nothing very seriously because she was busy making a home and raising her 2 children. Then about 30 years ago, she took up art again, and she chose the very demanding medium of calligraphy. It required a great deal of concentration and expertise to paint with an ink-laden brush directly on paper, no help from drawing or sketching or any such thing. What she achieved, the infinite variety of forms, the play of light and shade, the suggestion of textures was all with the fluid ink and the movement of the brush. As you can see, and also her previous exhibitions, she has always been inspired by forms from nature. I would leave it to Ishani to...
Yeah, I would like to go back to your past and let's talk of your memories of the old times. Who were the people who influenced you? I mean, there was Nandulal Bushu, there was Ramkin Gurbaj, and there was Binod Bihari, I think also. So, can you talk about, it was Tagore and Shantiniketan, of course, but with that background, who were the people who majorly influenced you?
It's very difficult to say.
Would you like a mic? No. Can you hear?
Yes.
When we were in school, we used to see Nandalal was sketching in the campus, especially on festive days like Ananda Mala. In Shantiniketan, most of the festivals are based on seasons. So Holi becomes Vasantotsav, and during that Durga Puja first day, Mahalaya day, Ananda Mela is held. So from morning you can hear drumming, and you could see Nandalal was sketching here and there, and of course, Ramkinkar Vaid used to do his sculpture when we were 10 years, I was 10 years old. That time I think he did that mill call. So I and my friend Mitu, she couldn't come. We used to go and talk to him, and he would talk to us and say, "You come, तुम्हारे portrait बनाओ." And actually, he did a portrait of mine when I was 10 years, I think 9 or 10 years old. I went to Colombo with some friends, and he was teaching under the Chatim tree, Shaptabani tree near Kalubari, that the black mud house. So he was teaching watercolor. So when I went, she said, "Bosch." Then he took a paper, and within 2 minutes, I think, he one brushed, another brush took here, and 2 dots, and finished my portrait. Of course, at that time I didn't like it very much. But fortunately I had kept it safe. Later when I showed to my husband Ramachandran, he said, "Oh, it is a great thing you keep it safe." I think it was shown in that exhibition of his retrospective, my portrait. And later in Delhi, I showed it to Richard Bartholomew. He said, "My God, only a master can do with few strokes and within such a short span of time, when in the likeness, you still can recognize this is Chameli." So that is how our days were there. And also music. From morning till evening, we could hear Rabindra Sangeet. And later, when I left Shantiniketan, came to Delhi, I realized the value of that, my life in Shantiniketan, hearing Rabindra Sangeet and reading Tagore. Actually, my learning of Bengali started with reading a primer written by Rabindranath Tagore himself and illustrated by Nandalal Bose. Later, when my children went to school, I used to teach them Hindi. I was so shocked to read the text because I was used to such wonderful text by Tagore himself. Then in Hindi here, Aase Ajagar, Ajagar mat pakad, Girgit pakad. I thought, what kind of text the children are given. I was so fortunate. I studied Tagore right from my beginning of my education. So a lot of things like that. And there used to be exhibitions in Kalabhavan. We used to visit the exhibition. Even from abroad, I think UNESCO sent a few times and what to say? Not original masterpieces, but not prints. No, not prints. Copy of Van Gogh, Sunflower, and things like that. So we could see great work also. And of course, there were Chinese masterpieces. Some of them were collected by my father and given to Kalabhavan. And of course, Tagore, whenever he visited some Asian countries, he was gifted with many of the masterpieces of himself. So there are many wonderful specimens of Japanese art also in Kalabhavan. So we are used to such beautiful things right from our childhood. And the functions were held so beautifully, you know. There was no grand hall or anything, so most of the functions were held under the trees in mango grove, na, called Amru Kunja. And the venue would be decorated with alpana on mud floor. The floor would be plastered with mud and cow dung, and over which the students would do alpana. So there was no money in the institution, so they decorated all the venues with flowers and alpanas and textiles also. We saw Gujarati textile in our childhood, beautiful Gujarati textiles, Kutch from Kutch. They used to be displayed in the background of the venue of functions. That is how many dignitaries who came to Shantiniketan, they were greeted in that mango grove. And classes also were held under the trees. I remember sometimes in spring, especially when the flowers of sal tree would fall on us with little breeze. So it was sometimes distracting, but it created, I think, a beautiful effect which helped me to be sensitive to nature and feel oneness with nature. I think that is so Tagore, Shantiniketan, and
nature.
This nature played a very important role in my life. And after I came to Delhi, after marrying Ramachandran, for sometimes I could not work, but I used to always help him in some of his projects, like writing and illustrating children's books, and also his miniature paintings. Miniature paintings means a lot of hard work. You have to lay the colors with thin washes of color and build up the color area. So he would make the composition, and I used to fill in the colors, which used to take quite a long time. But that also gave me a lot of insight how our artists work. But when my children went abroad for higher studies, I found time to do some work. And first I started sketching in the little garden we had. Then I started with ink and brush, and I was quite surprised. The result I was quite happy with. So then I showed my husband. He also said it is coming all right. So that's how I started. And when Rekha Mundi from Calcutta came, she asked for an exhibition. So I said, you first ask Ramachandran whether they are good enough to show. Then when he said, okay, you can show now, then only I exhibited. So that was my first exhibition in 93.
That was in Habitat.
Yeah. There was no Habitat gallery that was held in somebody's.
Rekha's.
हाँ
तो कलकत्ता की रेखा है ना उसकी
I think,
You had your exhibition with Paranjit.
no, that was later.
That was
This is
later.
the
That was
first-
later, yes.
And I was surprised that my friends like Paramjit and Arpita congratulated me, so I think it was a big certificate. so I just went on doing what else I can miss.
Can you tell us something about your influence of your father, Professor Tan?
Yeah.
Please do share.
Yeah. Actually, I was the favorite daughter of my father. So, but he was a very idealistic person. So, so we had a very strict childhood life. We were never allowed to see films. For certain films, we had to take special permission from my father. Anyway, and he used to, we were asked to sit in the open veranda, the back side of our house after dinner to watch the sky. That he said, you must, human being, life is very narrow and small. You look at the sky and see how big it is. This is to expand your mind. So we were not allowed to study after dinner. We had to sit and watch the sky and stars. But same thing in Shantiniketan also, there was the tradition of Goitalik on full moon nights. So at about 8 o'clock in the evening, the bell will ring and we knew the full moon has come out. So we would go and gather there and we would go around the ashram singing in praise of moonlight and all that. So those were very beautiful memories. And later, much later, when I went to Japan for the first time, and we were in Tokyo, we were chatting at some friend's place in the evening. Suddenly somebody came and said something in Japanese. Then everybody ran out. So I didn't know, I also went out and the full moon has come out in the sky. So everybody ran to see. And they all just stood there to see, how they admire the full moon. That was quite new to me. But then I remembered we also had the same thing in Shantiniketan, singing on full moon night. So most probably Tagore must have taken it from Japan or China, but this tradition of looking at moon, looking at nature.
When you came back to Delhi from Shantiniketan, what was the thing which you obviously missed from Shantiniketan?
Oh, I miss the plants and trees
You had a nice garden in Jamia, but then it's not the same. So
No.
what were the trees and the flowers which you really missed?
Oh, so many of them. They still come back in my paintings.
Kashmir, for
Yeah.
instance.
Yeah.
And you are drawing all kinds of flowers and some different kind of boats. But did you ever think of drawing koi or the rangamati pots, which are quintessentially Shantiniketan?
Because I came away to Delhi and my life changed. So there was no koi as such.
Yeah,
But when I went to Kerala, Trivandrum, I saw the seashore. Then I tried to capture the sea waves and groves. And in America also we went to Lake Placid. There I have made some paintings on Lake Placid.
And music, I wanted to ask you. You responded to the music in Shandit. Has that any relation to any
Oh
of
yeah. That lot of influence.
Huh.
I don't sing, but I always sing in my mind and in bathroom. So, yeah. And I never realized the greatness of Tagore till I came to Delhi. And because for every occasion Tagore has written something. So if you are sad, you sing a song, then your mind becomes calm and quiet. If you are happy, that's another thing. Then you see the flowers blossoming in spring, so or moonlight, whatever nature offers, you have a song for that. Yeah. Like when I went to America, my son's place in Alabama. So in the morning I woke up and saw the trees, the forest behind his house. I thought it was so magnificent. I never knew it was so beautiful. So I think all over the world, all the countries are so beautiful. So sometimes I wonder why human beings quarrel or fight or there's war. The world is so beautiful and life is so precious. So I try to express myself through
your art. And talking of the material that you use for your drawings, initially your father gave you some tablets, ink tablets. Then you used bottling, Japanese bottling. Then your husband got you some Chinese ink
color.
So, is that what you're using now as a material?
Yeah, I've stopped using the tablet, though that is the best. That gives such luminous black, I can't tell you. But you have to grind every time, that takes a long time. Here from the bottle, you just pour and mix with some water and you paint. So that's so easy. So I don't use that tablet anymore. I'm really sorry. And initially I used to use only ink. Then Ramachandran went to Japan and he got me some gold. Then I mixed gold also because light falling on the foliage. So I felt if I add little gold, it may give that feeling of light. So this is my way of suggesting. I don't know whether it did or not, but I like to use gold with ink. And much later, when Ramachandran went to China for a delegation, so he brought some natural colors, red and I never used much colors in my work, but when I used that red, I was so surprised. It was so brilliant red. So then I thought I have to use it. Then we have some Sthalapadda plants in our garden. So when they blossom, I use them. After that, whenever I feel the need of it, I use
Those
them.
colors.
They are brilliant.
In fact, the touches of blue in these onion
Yes.
flowers, What
Yeah,
are these?
that
This
is
amazing
because
color.
those are spider lilies.
Oh, spider lilies, yes.
Spider lily. Now,
But
spider
what
lily
is that blue?
Yeah, what is that blue?
What is that blue?
Some blue, but there is silver also. Now, how to paint white spider lily on white paper? It is not possible, no? So I thought, why not I try I had some pearl white, which is shiny. So I used that. But that also did not that only when you suggest the form of the petals. So that's why I used little blue. Otherwise, I couldn't have painted the spider lily. Same with onion flower also, it is white, a ball of white. That also I did the same way.
So in your early days, you had once told me that little tray in which you grind the egg was your father's gift to you. Afterwards, you showed me a little white tray which had been broken.
Yeah, it broke.
Yes.
So for some time I couldn't work. Then I got this ink bottle ready-made.
Ready-made.
So
But like that ink tablet, you can get the thickness that you want, no? While painting.
that's not the money. That here also you can get.
You can make it.
No, if you put less water, it will be thick, and if you put
Okay.
more water, it is thin wash.
Okay. So it's the ready-made ground.
Yeah.
And you use watercolor pencils also. Do you?
No. Once studying some flowers I use, but painting no. So I use straight away. I don't use any pencil drawing, because if you use a pencil drawing, then your brush stroke become stiff. It follows a
The lucidity is not.
Mm.
Is missing.
But here there's a flow of lines which I think interesting. So I use. So sometimes I waste lot of paper because you cannot correct.
Yeah, with calligraphy painting,
Yeah.
unlike oils and all, where you can correct it.
Yeah.
You can put layers on it, but here is permanent. What you
An
want is-
expensive practice, because the paper is very expensive.
Yeah. So when Ramachandran throws away his drawings, I take them and at the back of it, I
Oh, so
I
that
did- and my own also. And invariably, those come better than because we are free. We are not wasting any paper. So we are very free. So those many pictures comes always better. So Ramachandran will say, why are you so conducive? Why don't you spend some papers? But I feel bad to throw away papers.
Have you been tempted to do any other kind of work apart from nature? In the last few years, we've been seeing nature. I've seen some of your shows, nature, and very wonderfully expressed. I've not seen much of your earlier work from the 90s. You have linked up all nature,
Yeah.
Tagore, your father, the moon, flowers.
Yeah. No, I don't. Never felt like doing so. I don't know. Nature comes naturally. Sorry.
our childhood make a deep impression on our mind. And in your case, nature made a very deep impression in your mind. The write-up also this is apparent that you have gone back to the same things.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell more about Shanti.
Yeah. You know the canopies of the trees that you've drawn. Your school with open skies, sitting under the tree. You must have watched these trees from sitting
Yeah.
down. Do tell us about your school times.
We had, most of the classes were held under the trees. There were few many classrooms which were for science subject, experiment, and geography class also, an art class. Yeah. But most of the classes were held under the trees. So that created a deep, I think, bond. Actually, if you think about it, all ancient art are about nature only. Chinese, Egyptian, Assyrian, nature, they are forms of nature. Whether in Assyrian art, the tigers are fighting, and in Egyptian art, of course, so many the lilies and so many endless subject of nature you find.
Which is greater, nature or man? It may seem weird.
You
One
cannot
of the Nobel Prize winners said at the acceptance speech, "Man will not only endure, he will prevail." Today we see a lot of destruction of nature.
Yes, yeah. It's very sad. It's very sad. Because I was reading somewhere, trees came into being some 3,000 million years back. There were trees in the world. But man came into being only less than 3 million years. And oldest living being on earth is a tree, some 500 years old, I think, somewhere, Australia or somewhere. That is the oldest living being thing in the world.
Are you able to find time to read books?
Yeah.
Do you return to reading Tagore again and again? His poems.
Yeah, I have got Gita Vita, which is songs, but they are poems also.
Yes.
So for all occasions, I can find the appropriate song for that occasion, which makes me at peace.
Ma'am, what influenced your the decision to use colors restrictively? The decision to use colors in restrictively.
Only blacks and
Oh, okay.
monochromatic colors.
That is my,
Yeah.
there's no restriction as such, but I feel like doing using more black. I can feel the color in ink itself. Actually, there's a book on Chinese painting where the title is Color of Ink. So the author has said that through only black and white, they have been able to express a variety of emotions and forms and all that. It is not necessary that you have to use so much color. It is preference. I am a very colorless person.
No, not at all. but yes, that like even when you do go to colors, then it's in a very careful, delicate choice. Yes. So I was wondering that did you ever feel that when you're working with nature and talking about the beauty of nature, then did you ever maybe in your sketches or work that is not shown, do you then explore colors, or that was never required?
In sketches, I have used color pencil to mark the color of the flower and nail.
Okay.
But when you paint, you may not follow it exactly. You can follow in your own way. And some flowers like this shimbul. That symbol is so red,
Yes.
you will have to use that red color. So have used it.
So only when it's very necessary.
And it's Thalapadu also, that is
White to pink,
white to
red to
pink,
red.
that you have to use little bit of pink. You have to. That pink is very subtle.
When you came from Shantiniketan to Delhi, so Shantiniketan was so tender and protective and under the Ravindranath and Ramkinkar and all those. You were like gloomy and all good, like utopia kind of.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, the transition
It is
to
sort of
Delhi must be hard for you.
Yeah, first we lived in Jampur extension, so I didn't like it very much. I thought Delhi was a horrible place. But later we went to Jamia, and took a place, a house of Dr. Zakir Hussain. So there I got back Shantiniketan.
There was more nature.
Yeah.
You paint from memory because like if you see these trees, the ones behind you, the one which you have done obviously when you were in Rochester.
Yeah, these are all Rochester.
Yes.
So I've done many times.
So you come back to Delhi and then paint it from memory, or
No, these were done
Done
there.
there.
Only. Some I have done like Shantiniketan trees, in childhood, they are from memory. Because I remember how we used to attend classes under the trees and looking and get distracted also. But that experience was very wonderful.
Do you plan before you start now the next time? Are you already planning what you will do? Or
No.
not like that. You never think ahead of what you want to.
Suddenly something,
You're
some
being
little thing
spontaneous
comes.
about. Right.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to ask you is that say light and the shade, the dark colorings, do you, is it spur of the moment
Yeah, sort of.
decision, or you have an idea that I will paint a
Oh,
dark?
I think mostly at the spur of the moment. Suddenly when you keep a paper, then you do mix the color, then it is more spontaneous.
At that
Spontaneous,
moment, yes.
Because these are all spontaneous works, so there's no calculated effort.
Yes, no plan of work.
That is for huge work, complicated work.
Yes. I suppose for huge works also it's spur of the moment with decisions. No? For the large works, say for you also, whether you're going to put this or that is a spur of the moment decision. Yeah, I suppose all creative work.
Every time you are making a choice.
Every time.
Yeah. It is not like building a house. Something. It just comes naturally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shruti, you have something to
Yes,
add?
correct.
Can I ask one more question? So when you, I'm assuming you spend some time studying a plant, and then will you start painting it, or so how much do you focus on, say for example, if you've gone somewhere, do you spend some time studying, and then how much time do you study and then get into painting? What is the practice like? I just want to.
These are the trees, the forest behind the house where we used to stay in winter, no? Our friend's house. So, at the back of the house is the forest of pine trees. Pine or what?
Shal tree.
These are the pine or maybe
No,
fir.
these are not fine.
Some kind of pine maybe. Because in pine trees don't dry up in winter.
They have fine leaves.
Needles.
Needles.
Anyway, these are trees of cold countries. So it was at the back of our room, you could see. So whenever you look out of the window, you see those trees. But when I painted, I did not look at it and paint exactly. The impression, because they are quick work, so otherwise it becomes hard, no? Because the line, the flowing lines, if you take long time, it becomes hard. But this is spontaneous work, so it has its own beauty or whatever, quality.
So you didn't make any, you didn't study it for some time, you just started with the paintings first in this way?
Yeah, because I have done this every time, whenever we went there to stay for our winter months. So even in summer we have been there. So summer it is very different. Summer it's all green, but the same trees and same form. But in winter it is little bit of snow, but the leaves are still there. Only I think it's some sort of pine. Only pine trees have leaves in the winter. And during storm, they make so much noise. Oh, and it's frightening. And sometimes we are scared whether the tree will fall on our house.
And how do you decide on the form and the space? Like with these spider lilies or the onion flowers, how much white space to be there? Is that also spontaneous or?
Yeah.
And the connectedness of?
Yeah, you feel that it is sufficient, I don't overcrowd it. I like to keep the negative space as money. I don't know why, but I like it that way.
What are you working on these days?
Nothing. I'm not been well, no? I'm pain here and there.
So we have some tea and coffee now?
I think
Chai?